Hello, this is Random Art Attack, and in this tutorial series we are making animated dice. In this episode, we're starting off inside Blender and we're creating the dice, bringing them into Substance Painter, and then texturing them and getting them ready for Unity. The next tutorial in the series, we are going to actually go into Unity, create the scripts, and get it so that the sides light up like it shows right here. Really cool tutorial, excited to make this. Now, this idea came about because as I surf Twitter, I find cool ideas that I tweet, and people who vote on these basically dictate which tutorials I'm going to do. And I think this is a great way to interact with the community, so if you want to participate in that, go ahead and go to twitter.com/randomartattack, subscribe, and you can vote on a future tutorial if you would like to. We are now inside Blender, and what we're going to do is we're going to create the dice. It's very simple, except save the 10-side die, so we're going to start with that one first. What you want to do is go ahead and add a cone with 5 sides like this. So Shift A, add cone. And make sure that the depth is 1. Now what you want to do is take this cone and duplicate it and rotate it 180 degrees. If you rotate it along the x-axis, it'll actually line up perfectly. So this isn't what we want. We want to rotate 180, hit X, and then you can see how it zigzags like that. If we hit Z, we can see this even better, and you can see in the middle there is the 10-sided die. So if we go ahead and add a Boolean, oops, there we go. Go ahead, go add modifier, Boolean. And then where it says object, you need to just select the other cone, hit apply, and those were intersections. And there's your 10-sided die. So really kind of cool, isn't it? Now, the other shapes are really easy. You go to File, User Preferences, and then scroll down to where it says Add Mesh, Other Extra Objects. Add Mesh, Extra Objects. Click that. And now if you hit Shift A, go to, make sure that's center. Shift A, Math Functions, Regular Solids. There's a tetrahedron. Right here is a dodecahedron, so that's the 12-side die. Right here is the hexahedron. That's a cube, so you could just add a cube if you want to. Icosahedron is a 20-side die. And now I want to show you something. You never look at dice this big, and so they may look a little off. Do you see how it's too fat or too skinny, or how it kind of like skews a little bit? If you go and actually grab a 20-sided die, they do this. We're so used to looking at them flat on the table that we don't usually pick them up and look at them at different angles like this. The really strange one is the tetrahedron. So let's go ahead and go to add math function regular solid one more time. Go down to tetrahedron and check this out. If you get it, that's hard to see. So let's go to perspective. Right there, do you see how it doesn't look like it's lined up correctly? That is actually what tetrahedron dice look like. 4-side dice look like this. So don't be worried if this isn't looking like an actual dice. All these mathematical functions are correct, and they line up perfectly with what these shapes actually look like. Crazy, huh? We're going to montage through this part. I'm sure you don't want to see me just adding all these different things, and all I'm doing is on different layers, adding the tetrahedron, hexahedron, octahedron, icosahedron, dodecahedron, all those things. All right. So let me explain what I'm doing now. I like to orient all of my shapes so that they are flush with the ground or parallel with the ground, not flush, I don't know. So I'm just going to be turning all of these, and then I'm going to be resizing them. How dice are shaped is basically this. You got your 4-side die, your 8-side die, and your 10-side die that if they're lying flat on the floor or the table, I don't know who rolls on a floor, but whatever. If they're laying flat on a table, they will all be equal size. So you could run a pencil across those 3 die, and it would just be a straight line. The 4-side die, the 10-side die, and the 20-side die are slightly bigger than all of these. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that all of these are oriented correctly, and then I'm selecting them and sizing them so that the 6-sided, the 8-sided, and the 10-sided are all the same size, and the 20-sided, the 12-sided, and the 4-sided are a little bit bigger. Was that complicated enough? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is duplicate all my shapes and then put them on a separate layer and then combine them with Control J. So here we have it in edit mode, all of my different shapes. I'm selecting them with L, and now I'm moving these so that when I get into Substance Painter, I can see all sides of it at the same time. And so what I like to do is you can kind of see, and it doesn't matter the order that the dice go into. I like to just make a diagonal like such so that I can see the tops and the bottoms of all of these dice and the right and the left and the front and the back of all of these. Now the problem is as you start to rotate these, some of them start to get in the way of one another just slightly, ever so slightly. So what I like to do as well is take these and start to offset them up as well as not just across. So let's select all of these with L. I'm just moving these up with G, selecting all of these, moving these up, and so on. So now what I'm getting is I'm getting a lot of different angles. I can look at these dice and the other dice don't run into them. The reason I need to do this is so that I can easily texture these within Substance Painter. And there you go. So you can see me you have all aspects of that 8-side die there. Now what we want to do is duplicate it, Shift D, move it to a different layer here with M, and I'm going to remove the 6-side die because the bevel that we're going to add doesn't really work that well. So add modifier, bevel, let's find, it's alphabetical, so up, 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 almost there. No, up, wrong way. Not subdivision surface, don't do that. I'm leaving this in so you can see sometimes I'm flustered. So bevel there. And select everything, go to Shading UV, hit Smooth, and now you can see it starts to do it. Segments will make it a little bit more crisp, so there we go, that's looking nicer. And we can change the width. You can play around and get it any way you want, but that's looking pretty good. In fact, I'm just going to add the cube and see how that looks. Well, that doesn't look too bad, actually. So need to select the cube and hit Smooth on that one as well. Making sure I like this, it's a little too much, so I'm going to make it smaller here, change the width down. That looks really good for a 20-side die. But you can see the 6-side die doesn't look good. It's too sharp. So I'm going to hit L, select this, and then make this less sharp. Just make this a little bit wider. That's a much better looking 6-side die in my opinion. And let's go ahead and select this 4-side die and do the same thing. It's looking too sharp. So make the width go up a bit. And there we go. The last thing you'll see is 12-side die has this weird artifact because it's beveling that. So I go ahead and go to Limit Method, Angle, and it automatically fixes that as well. So this is looking pretty good. Next I want to go to the actual dice, the low poly, select all the edges, hit Control E, and then hit Mark Seam. The only problem is the 12-side die has more faces than it has seams. So you can see kind of right there. So I'm going to deselect this. C, middle mouse button there. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. So mark seam on everything. And then edge split. It's right below bevel. So Control B, I guess I could have done instead of actually trying to find that inside the modifiers as well. Anyways, I edge split this thing. And now I need to do the same thing with this 12-side die. So we're going to go ahead and montage through this because no one wants to see me select all the faces or the edges. But I'm selecting the edges. I'm going to do an edge split and a mark seam, so Control E. Now I'm going to select everything. Let's go ahead and, have to hit Unwrap. Now you'll notice I actually didn't have anything selected, so when we open up this UV image editor, nothing's going to happen. So select everything, Unwrap, and then the margins, you want to move this so there's some space in between all this. So I'm basically having all of the dice share the same texture sheet, which saves on memory and things like that. I'm going to change this to a 5 right there, so 0.005, and that's good to go. Now all I need to do is export the high and the low polygon models, so select them individually. So I'm selecting the low ones first, and I'm going to bring those into Substance Painter. So File, Export.fbx, make sure you hit Select File. I went ahead and just jumped straight here, so you didn't have to watch me export anything. I'm importing the low polygon dice. Up here, you'll see texture settings, and we want to bake it. So you can see all the dice there in the viewport. Beautiful. Go up to the texture settings panel right there. Hit bake textures. We really don't need anything else, so you can just unselect all of these. You want to probably have 2048. Select the resolution you want. Also go to 2048 there. And now just hit bake, and it's going to work out just fine. With this baked out, you can see if it looks good or not. And if you have any questions, I do have another tutorial about how to bake within Substance Painter. Pretty straightforward, though. Most of you should be able to do that pretty straightforward. All right, so there we go. The dice are looking great. Yeah, I'm just looking at the edges, making sure everything looks good. I'm going to import some textures. So you find the file that you want, which I've already found right here. And I just drag and drop that into my viewport. You need to go ahead and change it to, do you want it to be in the project? So we'll save to the project, or just this one time, or do you want it to always be on the shelf? I typically always just go to the project because if I'm using this and I open it up, I want it to be there. So I'm going to set this as a texture. I'm going to save this. And I also have a swirl pattern that I'm going to bring as well. So this one is just all the numbers. So here I have a swirl pattern. Need to drag it right there. Same thing, want to save it to the project as a texture. Go ahead and save that, and we should be good to go. All right, now we're going to start to texture these things. So the first thing I actually want to do is make sure that the perspective is off. So you click this icon here, scroll down, and then just crank this all the way down to 0 or 3, I guess is the smallest it goes. This is how I get orthographic view, more or less. There might be an easier way. If there is, I'm sure there is. Leave a comment below. Now what I want to do is I want to zoom in on this as much as I can. So what we're going to do now that it's orthographic is we're going to start to paint the numbers onto this. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but what I like to do is I like to add a fill layer. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And you can make it any color you want. I'm going to make it red so it really shows up, and then I'm going to add a black mask. Now there's a stencil because I made an error on my tutorial and I forgot to take this off. So go ahead and I'm going to delete this. You will not have a stencil originally. If you want to add a stencil, you just drag and drop it. There it goes. Stencils, you move it with the S and then left or right mouse button. Left will make it turn. You can do left and shift to snap. Right will scale it. After you get it to the size you want, do not touch the right mouse button because then it's going to change the size of this and it is a pain in the neck. Now I'm trying to line this up, so I try and get the die to be flush. Alt will move the die. S will move the texture sheet. I try to rotate it with S, left mouse button, until I can form a perfectly straight line between those 2 points. Now I line it up by lining it up this way, line it up that way so that the one's bottom is right there, and then I just paint it on. And so I'm painting onto the black mask. This gives me a lot of control over what I want to do. Now I'm going to do the same thing. The next number is going to be a 7. So I don't worry about rotating it. I just make sure that it's, facing the screen. I don't care the orientation because I can change the orientation of this sheet right here, like such. So it's making a line right there. Go to my 7, try and line it up so it goes straight down like that, straight right there. And then, see, I hit the wrong button. That looks too far to the side. You can view this by just clicking a different layer. That doesn't look right to me. So I'm going to undo that, hit S, and just move this with middle mouse button there. Paint that in. And there we go. I'm going to montage through this because I'm sure you don't want to see me have to paint every single side of this. Also, I'm not going to do all of the different dice because for a tutorial that will take way too long. I'm just showing you the process so that you can do this yourself. And yeah, pretty much it. Like always, if you like these tutorials, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And subscribe and leave comments below. The more interaction I have with you guys, the better. Also, if you want to follow me on Facebook or Twitter, there's some links below. All these textures are being made available on Patreon for free, so I'll post those up as soon as this tutorial is loaded as well. All right, back onto the tutorial. So now that the dice are done, well, the die is done, we want to start to add depth to these numbers so that they don't just lie flat on the shape, but they actually sink in. So if you select the layer, you can go ahead and go to the height and you can change this down. Now that doesn't look down, it kind of looks up, but play around with it and trust me it is. So to the left is down, to the right is up. That was poorly said. Whatever, moving on. As you zoom out, you can see it's not very deep, so you can change the depth, but it's also very tight. So if you click this and go to add filters, so the mask, there's a blur filter that if I zoom in here, you can see it starts to soften up that mask a little bit. Too much, there we go. Just something like that. So it makes it look a little bit more like a real die. Yep, that's looking pretty good there. Also, you can alter the roughness and the metallic of this as well. I'm just leaving it as the default one, but play around with that to see what you like the most. I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer. I'm just going to fill it in as blue, and then add another layer and fill this in as, I don't know, maybe something just very drastic, yellow. Add a black mask on this as well, and then I don't want to use the texture or the stencil in the mask itself, so close that. I want to use the projection. The reason being, I'll show you why. If I used a stencil on the mask, it only paints the white and then it adds more white. So that looks pretty good, right? As I'm masking between the blue and the yellow. But if I move this and paint more white, it doesn't paint the black as well. I want to paint both the black and the white, and so you need projection. The numbers were fine because we only wanted to paint the white, but projection here, yep. And you need to go ahead and add a stencil into the projection right there. Perfect. Hit S, and it moves exactly the same way. I can start to add this pattern. Now again, this pattern is made available on Patreon, so if you want to go there, it's free. I'm not going to charge you for it. Yeah, that's how nice I am. If you want to support me, you're more than welcome to. All right, so I'm just painting this on. I like to go to the front and the back, but that's going to make the edge very sharp and not really flow. Actually, that looks pretty good. So look at it. If it doesn't look good, you can kind of paint over it like this. Just get the mix that you want. The cool thing is you can do any texture you want. You don't have to make plastic dice. You can make metal dice. You can make like wood dice if you have a wood texture. Anything is on the table. Dice table. All right, I'll stop. Dad joke there. So this is looking pretty good. And I mean, I wouldn't want these colors, but if you want to change these colors, you could. But something that's even cooler to give you more power and dynamics over this is we're going to start to actually make it black and white so that we can add a gradient in Photoshop. So I'm changing this to black. I'm changing this to white, like such. And now I also want to remove the numbers when I export this, so I only get this base layer so I can manipulate this and make any color I want. So I'm just going to make that black and white like such. And it's looking good. All right, so let's go to File, Export, or yep, Export Textures, there it is. And you want to change this to Unity. So Unity 5, Metal, Standard, and then just select the file location. I have that pulled up right here. Yep. And you want to rename this. Now, when you do it with all of your dice, there's not going to be that black section there. But I'm going to go ahead and rename this to whatever you want. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the numbers to try and create an alpha for the numbers. So let's select this, rename. And I don't care what you name it. As long as it's something different, it won't overwrite it. I don't care about the normal because we're going to overwrite it with the actual numbers in set. So I don't want to rename that because I don't want two of those. I'm going to turn on the numbers, turn off the swirls, and the numbers have to be white and the die has to be black. We're creating an alpha. This is going to be used to make the glow as well, and so you need this alpha. So we have a black-white mask. Save this as a texture, do the exact same thing, and let's look at how that turns out. Okay, go ahead and open up the file location in Blender. There you go. Kind of skipped a step there. Not really. All it skipped is basically me moving files around. So here I have the texture, and here I have the numbers. So the texture, what you can do is you can go ahead and add, let me find this, add a gradient. So it's not, that's a mask. Right there. There's the gradient. And now if you select the gradient, you can select any gradient you want and make the dice any color combination you want. So if you want blue and red or white and gray, whatever. So here's blue. And here's red. So as I do that, I can even move this up and down to kind of change the thresholds to get even more difference out of the colors. So having that swirl mask allows me to have a lot of different flexibility. Now with this, I'm going to go ahead and select all of these numbers, Control, we'll just copy and paste that, create a new fill layer. I guess in Photoshop you don't have a fill layer, so create a new layer and fill it with whatever color you want. So, I don't know, green? This is going to look horrible. Go ahead and create a mask right there, and then Alt select it, and then copy in the black and white numbers. Now if I select out, the black and white is acting as a mask, and so I get the colors any color I want. I now have a texture that I can bring into Unity and make it anything I want. I can change the colors to whatever I want. I can make it a solid color. I can make it different gradients. I don't have to have just 2 colors. You could have 3, 4, 5. So let me show you how to just make this a solid color. You could do that, or you could just delete this and just do a fill, right? Or I can start to play around with these. That purple and red is horrible. Why would you ever pick that? Ugh. So let's just select that. That's actually kind of a cool combo right there. And you can change the numbers by just doing a different fill. So let's do a fill of black. And there you go. You have different colored dice. This is pretty much it for the tutorial. We went through Blender, we went through Substance Painter, we went through how to actually export this. In our next tutorial, we're going to talk about how to animate these inside of Unity, do all the scripting and all that stuff, and it's really, really cool. Thank you so much for watching this. Please like and subscribe. Go and watch some other videos of ours. We do video game reviews as well for indie developers, and so we like to try and get them publicity where they're not so much. The last one was really good. It was Under Hero. It is an awesome, awesome game, so I strongly encourage you to go and watch that. Thanks again, guys. You rock. See you around. Bye.